Shalom, everyone. This is Sade. I wanted to share, I'm going to be sharing a clip about a professor. Professor is a female professor, a lecturer at the UCLA, and she's lecturing on identity politics, what is science, and the woes of the moments in the United States, and how she talks about the Black struggle and the slavery. Um, really in depth about the Black struggle and how it's deeply woven into the American fabric. So take a listen to her and another gentleman. So
No, this was so exciting, and it was also a great learning experience for everyone in the audience to see this clash of ideas.
Yeah, so tonight and over the next couple of episodes, we're going to be sharing most of the large portions of the Q&A that followed the presentation. And tonight we want to start with a really important question that came up about science and what it means to be scientific.
Hey, I didn't come here with an agenda. I'm just a little bit disappointed with a couple of things, and I want to address it super calmly. I think you build a foundation of your speech on working against identity politics. Yet, I think so conveniently, and it was kind of ignorant, that all of your examples of oppression or people going through struggle were all from the Black community. So if you could so conveniently use one specific ethnicity to kind of propagate your ideals, is that not identity politics in itself? That's my first question. My second question is, you spoke about how, the upward mobility of certain people in marginalized communities doesn't matter because they're kind of still propagating like these oppressive structures. But since you're so empathetic to the rights and the ways that Black people feel, are you disregarding the kind of role models that Nelson Mandela was, or like Martin Luther King was, or even like a Jay-Z was, right? Like people that made progress in their communities and inspired people to do better are somehow not appreciated now because they're like fulfilling some oppressor's needs, which didn't make sense to me. I feel like yes, there's a lot of stupidity on the far left that needs to be addressed, but fighting it with more stupidity is not going to help, right? We need to fight with compromise and reason, and just throwing the word science around doesn't make it rational. Just like, no, like, I'm sorry, this just sounds offensive, but I study science and engineering, and nothing was scientific in the first half of the conversation. It was just, oh, I'm going to abuse the fact that one certain community went through a lot of bad things in my country, and I'm going to use that to kind of propagate what I feel about them, right? Which sounded a little ignorant in my opinion. So I just want to know your views on that.
Well, let me start with your first question, which is that you allege I only spoke about what Black people face in this society and that that's a form of identity politics. In fact, it is not. First of all, I spoke about the Bangladeshi women in the sweatshops sewing our clothes. I talked about women who've been forced to have children against their will in that form of enslavement. I spoke about trans people who have faced over 500 laws this year introduced or passed, not to mention the terror that's enforced against them. I spoke about what happens on this planet as a whole as it is heating due to the destruction of climate change driven forward by the system of capitalism and imperialism. So if you missed all that, I'm not surprised if you also missed some of the scientific undergirdings of it. But to be fair, I will walk through it again. I speak about Black people in a very pronounced way when we come to revolution because the exploitation, the enslavement, the dehumanization, and the degradation that's been inflicted on Black people is foundational to this society and this system. And that is scientifically a fact. It's evidence-based. The wealth of this country, the territorial reach of this country, the military strength of this country got its roots in American slavery, the chattel slavery of Black people. And then on that foundation, the ideology of white supremacy, of Black inferiority was propagated. It was made a bedrock of one of the glues of this society, and it has been woven into this society ever since. The forms of oppression have changed. It took a civil war to end slavery, but then what happened? After not even 10 years of Reconstruction, where Black people were brought into some rights within this country, that was betrayed. The troops were pulled out, and Black people were re-enslaved in new conditions, slavery by another name, sharecropping for generations, serf-like conditions enforced through terror, lynch mob terror and violence. and the troops were pulled out to go and finish off the extermination of the native peoples. Okay, then another generation comes up in the face of changes in the U.S. economy and the need to pull black people out of the South and into the factories. Black people stood up and they waged struggle in the civil rights movement. They gave their lives, they stood up. White people stood with them. They went down from the North and stood with them. This upended Jim Crow. It was heroic that many did just unbelievably brave things. And then that was dismantled. And what did this system come back with? A new Jim Crow of mass incarceration that has ground up millions of black lives. So when I tell the story, this is science, when I tell the story of a black woman in Harlem with binoculars next to her window, watching in terror every time her 12-year-old, 13-year-old son crosses the street because of what police do every day to black people, every fucking day. When I talk about that, that is a particular, that concentrates a huge reality that is defining to this country. And that's scientifically true. It's evidence-based. It's woven into the fabric of this society. It's culture, it's economics, and it's global reach. And so we can debate. If you want to argue that's not scientific, bring some evidence. If you didn't hear the science, then please. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Tell me that it's a marginal thing. Tell me that to talk about that, I'm pimping off of it. I'm acknowledging reality. You want to say it's not defining to this country, that we shouldn't talk about it? I am talking about it, yeah.
The fact that something actually happened or is true.
Yeah.
Anything that's empirically based is not science, right? It's like saying anything that's true is scientifically, like it's science. It's not. So I understand.
Okay. Let me help. Oh, go ahead. Maybe he should get the mic.
I understand that your point is I want to be building arguments based on reason and rationale.
Here, take the mic just so it gets.
I understand that your point is I want to be building arguments on reason and rationale, but that doesn't mean that it's scientific, and that doesn't mean that it's false or wrong.
Okay.
I'm saying that the validity of your argument doesn't increase by throwing the word science out.
Well, so I would argue that science actually can be applied to all of reality, not just narrowly in engineering or in the natural sciences. No, this is important. What you're raising is widely felt, it's widely believed, it's widely taught, I'm sure, on this campus, that you can apply science to medicine, to nature, to the natural world. There's the hard sciences, but when you get to social reality, it's just opinions, it's experience, whatever. No, you can apply science to everything. Everything that is part of reality, which societies are, can be analyzed scientifically. All science means, in a universal sense, is it's an evidence-based process. You gather evidence about reality and you look for the deeper causes of the patterns in reality, and you can apply that to a society just like you can apply it to a rainforest, just like you can apply it to a virus. You can say, what is the most defining thing about any given society? What undergirds it? What are the laws and its functioning? And a scientific analysis of this society says the most defining thing about this country is it's a capitalist imperialist mode of production. That all of our needs are met through exploitation and people laboring in conditions all over the world to get the food we need, the clothes we wear, the pens we use, the microphones. All of this is created through global networks of production. And that all of our cultures, all of our ways of living, all of our ways of relating grow out of and have to reflect and more or less correspond to that. And so when we live in a society where the exploitation and oppression of Black people has been woven into that mode of production all the way down to today, it leads to the culture and the society and the kind of police terror that we have today. That's applying science to a social contradiction. And so that's one example. There was other questions. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, and an unscientific approach to society would say, look, here in America, we're all a bunch of individuals. You know, there's some social mobility. It's not like under feudalism, right? Where, you know, you're a peasant, you're born a peasant, you die a peasant, or you're born a noble. Under capitalism, there's a little bit of social mobility. So, hey, Jay-Z, you know, he made it. He's a billionaire. So therefore, in America, anyone can make it. No, that would be and this is some great victory for Black people, right? Jay-Z, a great victory for Black people. Big Pimpin'. That's a great role model for oppressed people. You know, this is how they fool you. This is how they fool you in this society. You know, they say, oh, in America, anyone can make it. This system is grinding up the lives of the masses of people. It's a capitalist system with white supremacy built into it. The masses of people are having their lives terrorized and ground up here, and even more so all over the world. And yet they hold up these few individuals who make it and say, look, in America, anyone can make it. And then they use that to say, oh, if you didn't make it, it's your own fault. And this is how people like Jay-Z, and she gave the example of Barack Obama, this is how they get used. In some ways, Obama was worse for black people than George Bush was. Obama got up there and said, and on Father's Day, and blamed black people for not pulling up their pants and being absent fathers. Mm-hmm. You know, he got up there after the police broke.
Okay, family, I just want you to hear the part about her and her deep felt empathy towards the struggle of black people, and she was very passionate about it. In fact, her voice cracked a little. She was a little shaken because she's that passionate about what's going on with not only black people, but just what's going on in the world regarding white supremacists. So we know that we're living in the last days. And also what gets me about this, I'm assuming he's from India. I don't understand these people coming from these other countries, and they get this attitude that for some reason that we're lazy and stupid and ignorant or whatever the case may be. And it's almost if they have the attitude that they should be here more than we should be here. But I found his comment and his statement against her was very rude, to call her ignorant. That was very arrogant of him. But anyways, y'all leave a comment on this particular video, and like and share. And you all have a blessed day.